أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله الذي جعلنا من المتمسكين بولاية سيدي ومولاي أمير المؤمنين أسد الله الغالب علي بن أبي طالب. والحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful, we ask Allah to send His greatest peace and blessings upon Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. We praise Allah for all the blessings He has given us, and the greatest blessing being that He allowed us to be of the ones who remain steadfast, dedicated, and loyal on the path of our Master after the Prophet, the Commander of the Faithful, the Prince of the Believers, the Protector of the Prophet and his message, Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib. We praise Allah for this blessing and every blessing, for without Allah, we would have nothing. In these nights, we remember the tragedy of Ali. We remember the orphans that he left behind. In these nights, we remember the calamity of Ahlul Bayt, the cries of Zainab over her father, the cries of Al-Hassan wal-Husayn, the cries of Al-Abbas. We remember in these nights as the commander of the faithful was struck in his prayer and he was killed in the Masjid of Kufa. We remember Ali. If I tell you this tale of sorrow, will you lend me your hearts to borrow? Will you shed a tear for Ali? Will you remember his tragedy? If I tell you this tale of sorrow, will you lend me your hearts to borrow? Will you shed a tear for Ali? Will you remember his tragedy? After Amir al-Mu'mineen was struck on his head, and Abdul Rahman ibn Muljam was taken away, and Ali was rushed to his home, back to his family. Ali did not groan or moan. Ali did not show any pain. Ali did not even shed a tear. But imagine as he returned back home and he would see his daughters. He would see his daughters Zainab and Kulthum. Ali would see his daughters and they would see him, blood flowing upon his brow, blood reaching his blessed beard. As Zainab would see her father Amir al-Mu'mineen, she couldn't help herself but fall to tears, wailing and crying. Wailing and crying, she called out, Abata ya Ali, Abata ya Ali. In these moments, though Ali did not moan and groan upon the strike of Ibn Muljam, when he saw the tears of Zainab, Ali would cry. He would cry like he cried over Fatima in the days after Rasulullah had passed. When Fatima was taken away from her children at such a young age, his daughters cried then, and now they cried over their father Ali, and Ali would cry with them. Imam Ali's son, Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiya, he would narrate those last days. He would narrate and say, as that they would lay the Imam to rest, they tried to give him some milk, they tried to give him some yogurt, so that he would regain his strength. But Imam Ali would not drink. Imam Ali refused. They say that as they were trying to encourage the Imam to just drink a bit of yogurt so that he would regain his strength, they say that they would hear noise from outside the house. Imam Hassan would go to see what was going on outside of the house, and he found a dozen of young orphans waiting at the door, holding cups of yogurt. Upon Imam al-Hassan seeing them, they told him, please take these cups of yogurt for our master, for our father Ali. Take these cups so that he may drink, so that he may regain his strength and return to us. Amir al-Mu'mineen was a father to all of these orphans. He would care for them. He would look after them. He would bring them food and water and sweets. He would play with them. He would be there for them every single day. And when they found that Ali was not with them, they ran to him, ran to his aid, wanting to give him from the little that they had. Imam al-Hassan, tears in his eyes, would go inside and he would tell his father, Amir al-Mu'mineen, he would say, Abata, these orphans wait for you and ask that you drink from this yogurt that they have brought you. Imam Ali alayhi salam at that would be feared, would be filled with tears, and he would take some of the yogurt and he would drink from that cup. But Imam Ali alayhi salam only took a few sips, and he gave the cup back to his son Al-Hassan, and he told him, my son, take this yogurt and quench the thirst of my killer Abdul Rahman ibn Muljam. Take this yogurt and make sure that his thirst is quenched, and make sure that he is taken care of. At the sight of Amir al-Mu'mineen having such selflessness in his last days, in his last moments, his sons and his daughters continued to cry over the calamity. When he looked over and he saw his son Imam al-Husayn crying over him, he told him, my son Husayn. It would be as if he would tell his son Imam al-Husayn, my son, do not cry for me. My tears are to be shed for you. My tears are to be shed for you, Ya Aba Abdullah. As I see in the land of Karbala, they will trample upon your chest. And on the day of Ashura, they will sever your neck. فلا يومك يومك يا أبا عبد الله. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين. عظم الله أجوركم, dear brothers and sisters, may Allah give you the greatest reward in commemorating and remembering the tragedy of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam and bringing life to his cause, bringing life to his memory, to his tragedy. Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam says, Ahyu amrana أحيوا أمرنا رحم الله من أحيا أمرنا. Bring life to our cause. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, may Allah have mercy upon those who bring life to our cause. And this is what we're doing, brothers and sisters, by going back and taking this look into history and understanding the tragedy, the calamity that took place with the members of Ahlul Bayt, especially Amir al-Mu'mineen, the commander of the faithful, the brother, the cousin, the protector of the Holy Prophet, the greatest servant and companion, and successor of the Prophet, in which the Holy Prophet ﷺ would say about Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ya Ali, you are to me as Aaron was to Moses. Ya Ali, you and I are the fathers of this nation. Ya Ali, you are truth and the truth is with you. It turns wherever you turn. Ali and I are the fathers of this nation, and I am the city of knowledge, and Ali is its gate. Whoever wishes to enter the city must enter through its gate. The Holy Prophet did not stop at any praise but give it to Amir al-Mu'mineen. But what happened, so much so that the ummah, the nation of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, had turned against Amir al-Mu'mineen and would have the audacity to take his life. And that Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam would die in such a way that he would be struck on the 19th of Shahr Ramadan in the state of prayer in the Masjid of Kufa, him not being just the Imam of the time, but the Caliph of the Ummah, the head of state, be killed in his prayer, or be struck in his prayer, and then would die 2 days later from the injury of that strike upon his head. We're going to take a deeper look into history and try to understand what was the context in which Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam was ruling in that 4.5-year period, that short period of his rule as the Khalifa of his time. It would be as if people had forgotten the Prophet's words, that whoever fights the Imam of their time will die a disbeliever and will die the death of the age of ignorance. Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam was the Imam of that time. And those that wished to wage war on him would be those who wished to kill him. As we discussed yesterday, we set the scene towards what would develop to be Ma'rakat al-Jamal, the battle of the camel. Now, the widow of the Prophet, the mother of the believers, Aisha, assembled her troops in Basra. Several distinguished men of opinion from the Ummah came to her and discussed the matter of war before Aisha. They tried to dissuade her and tell her that this is something that she should not continue to move forward with, that there would be too much bloodshed, and that this battle will only cause more of a fitna, more of a sedition in the nation of Muhammad that already faced civil strife during the time of Uthman in the Third Caliphate. Now, their attempts, unfortunately, rendered futile when she refused. She was adamant on toppling the new caliphate and accusing it of being the one that was responsible for the death of Uthman and his assassination. At this point, Imam Ali alayhi salam had only been ruling as the new caliph for about 4 months. Abdullah ibn Abbas told of a small encounter that he had with Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam prior to the Battle of the Camel. He said that when Imam Ali alayhi salam set out for war with the people of Basra, he came to the audience of the people of Dhiqar, or this was the place, Dhiqar was the place that before Imam Ali alayhi salam would commence in battle and meet the forces of Aisha, Talha, and Zubair in Basra, Imam Ali alayhi salam was stationed in this place called Dhiqar. He saw Imam Ali alayhi salam outside working on stitching his shoe. He was fixing an old shoe. Imam Ali alayhi salam, as he greets Abdullah ibn al-Abbas, and Abdullah ibn Abbas exchanges greetings with the Imam, Assalamu alaikum wa alaikum assalam. He asks Ibn Abbas, he says, what do you think the value of the shoe is? Looking at it and seeing that it was nothing but an old shoe, he said, I presume it has no value at all. Imam Ali alayhi salam looked at Ibn Abbas and he said, by God, it should be of more value to me than this caliphate and ruling over the people, but for the fact that I may establish right and ward off wrong. Then he went out and he spoke to the people. Ibn Abbas knew at that moment, even though he already had this idea and understanding, he made it clear that Imam Ali alayhi salam didn't want to rule in the beginning. And Imam Ali alayhi salam didn't wish to be in this position of power like these other people wished for it. The only fact was that Amir al-Mu'mineen was in that position because it would bring about justice and it would show truth from falsehood. Imam Ali alayhi salam would go out to the crowd of people that were outside and he would say clearly, verily God sent Muhammad when none among the Arabs read a book or claimed prophethood. He guided the people till he took them to the correct position and their salvation, so that their spears became straight and their conditions settled down. By God, surely I was in their lead till it took shape with its walls. I did not show weakness or cowardice. My existing march is also like that, and I shall certainly pierce the wrong till right comes out from its side. What cause of conflict? What cause of conflict exists between me and the Quraysh? By God, I have fought them when they were disbelievers, and I shall fight them today when they have been misled. I shall be the same for them today as I was for them yesterday. By God, the Quraysh only take revenge against us because God has given us preference over them. So we have allowed them into our domain, whereupon they have become, as the former poet says, by my life, you continued drinking fresh milk every morning and continued eating fine stone dates with butter. We have given you the nobility which you did not possess before us. And surrounded, protected you were by thoroughbred horses and tawny-colored spears. And you shall remain. You shall remain. The drums of war, as we see at this point of history, the drums of war thundered in the lands, and the armies were gathered into the battlefield. The open plains filled with this eerie chill. But before the swords could speak, Imam Ali alayhi salam would come into the center of the battlefield, standing between the two armies. And he actually came out riding on the Prophet's mule. And the people knew many of these gestures that Imam Ali alayhi salam and Ahlul Bayt had by wearing some of the clothing articles of the Prophet, by holding Dhul Fiqar, the sword that was given to him by the Prophet from Jibra'il, honoring Amir al-Mu'mineen, where it would be said by Jibra'il, لا فتى إلا علي ولا سيف إلا ذو الفقار. There is no youth like Ali, and there's no sword like Dhul Fiqar. Imam Ali alayhi salam came with all of these gestures and all of these props in which he wore, not only being the clothing and the elements from the Prophet, but his character, his virtue, and him being that successor and that brother of the Prophet like no other. Ali alayhi salam, though in this position, when he went into the battlefield at this point, he actually did not hold a sword, did not hold a spear, didn't even have a shield. He went in with full vulnerability, not holding any kind of weapon, and would enter the battlefield and wait and wait. People looked and saw, why is Ali going into the battlefield without any weapon? What was going on? Imam Ali alayhi salam, though no soldier, no warrior would even dare to go into a battlefield without the proper gear, without a weapon, without a sword, without a shield, without a spear. Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, his weapon, his shield, his sword was his faith, was his confidence and conviction on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This was a man who feared nothing but the displeasure of God. And though Ali did not carry his sword, he was armed with his unwavering belief in this relentless justice that he came to establish in the nation of Muhammad after I had strayed for 25 years from the tradition of the Prophet. What Imam Ali alayhi salam did at this moment, after pausing for a few, he called out to Zubayr into the battlefield. Zubayr reluctantly walked towards Amir al-Mu'mineen and met him at the middle of the battlefield. Imam Ali alayhi salam told him point blank, asking him, "O Zubayr, what made you come out here?" Zubayr replied in short, "It is the blood of Uthman." Imam Ali alayhi salam replies and says, "By God, I ask you, O Zubayr, do you not remember when you were walking with the Prophet, as he came to me that one day, he was holding onto your arm and he greeted me and gave me a great smile and laughed. He then, as he was so happy to see me, turned back to you and said, O Zubayr, you will fight Ali and you would have oppressed him. Zubayr, as this was all coming back to him, shaken, he looks at Imam Ali alayhi salam and he says, yes, by God, I remember. Imam Ali alayhi salam then asked him in short, then on what basis are you coming to fight me, O Zubayr? By God, I forgot all of this. And had I remembered this, Ya Ali, I would never have come out here and fought you, Ya Ali. Zubayr lowered his head in regret, in disgrace, in remorse, and he left the battlefield. Now, Imam Ali alayhi salam would then call on Talha, and he would call on Aisha, and he would give them similar reminders. Though Zubayr was faced, and though he changed in his demeanor, Talha and Aisha were not fazed, and they remain very stringent in the position that they took. On the eve of the battle, Zubayr showed this great hesitation. He was found speaking to himself, mumbling things and saying things like, this is the great sedition that we have spoken of. Talha was also scared, but he basically pulled himself together, reminding himself of why he was doing this and trying to convince himself that this was for the good of the ummah, for the greater good of the people. Aisha essentially was no different. It was a struggle within, no doubt, especially given the fact that they were some of the first companions, the first people, some of the closer individuals to the Prophet. And they were the ones who were some of the first to witness the Prophet and hear him say, Aliyun ma'al haqq wal haqqu ma Ali. Ali is with truth, and the truth is with Ali. It turns wherever Ali turns. But now, these three were forcing Ali into the battlefield, and tomorrow they would be facing off with truth. They were asking themselves, contemplating, were they against the truth? Did they wish the truth to die? Were they going to kill the truth? Tomorrow would come, and the war drums thundered asunder, and the hour of battle had begun. The armies would face each other once again, and they came in closer. Aisha's army was led by the tribe of Mudhar at the center, the tribes of Yemen on the right flank, and the tribe of Rabi'a on the left flank. Their hearts were in their throats. Some of them could not stomach the battle. They were about to face off with the Lion of God, Ali ibn Abi Talib. Imam Ali alayhi salam, his army was led by his son Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiyyah at the center, Ammar ibn Yasir at the right flank, and Aisha's younger brother, Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr, on the left flank. Their hearts were steady, and their tongues continued to sing the praises of God. Now, when the commander of the faithful, alayhi salam, came forward before his generals, he looked at his son, Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiyyah, who was at the center, and he gave him the flag of the army. He looked at him and he said, my son, mountains may move, but you may not move. Mountains may move from their position, but you should not move from yours. Grit your teeth. Lend to God your head in fighting for him, and give yourself completely to God. Plant your feet firmly on the ground and have your eye on the remotest foe, and close your eyes to their great numbers. Remember, your aid comes from God alone, the glorified. The time of battle had come, and Ali looked at his men and he reminded them of their duty before God and the nation. He advised them of their state of mind during the fight. He told his soldiers, he told his warriors one by one, the retreat after which return is intended and the withdrawal after which attack is in view should not make you unhappy. Do justice to your swords. Keep ready a place for the falling bodies of your foe. Prepare yourselves for hurling strong spears and striking swords with full force. And keep your voices down, as that keeps off cowardice. By him who broke open the seed for growing and creating living beings, they had not accepted Islam, but they had secured safety by verbally professing it and hidden their misbelief. Consequently, when they found helpers for their misbelief, they disclosed it. Know your enemy, know them well. Swords sang, and their songs echoed into the battlefield for hours. Thousands of lives were taken, and on that day, Talha would be killed.
but not by the forces of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Talha's killer actually was no other than Marwan ibn al-Hakam, one of Uthman's men. He joined the ranks of Talha in his campaign to avenge Uthman's blood, but he would do so in his own way. During the battle, Talha became preoccupied with the scene, and Marwan stood at a distance and waited for the right moment. As Talha grew deeper in a trance of the war that he had ensued, Marwan drew his arrow and launched it, piercing Talha and killing him. Standing over his body, he said, "I do not demand vengeance for the blood of Uthman after today." And he would point to the lifeless body of Talha and he continued, "The blood of Uthman is on his hands, and no one hated Uthman more than him." After Zubayr spoke to Imam Ali alayhi salam the day before, he went to Aisha and he told her what was on his mind. He shared his hesitation and his reluctance to continue on, and he wanted nothing more of this battle anymore. He was asked, "O Abu Abdullah, are you frightened by the swords of the sons of Abdul Muttalib?" He responded, "Indeed, the swords of the sons of Abdul Muttalib are long and sharp, and they are truly held by honorable men." He turned to his son Abdullah, and he said, after turning away from Aisha, he said, "You have your war. As for me, I'm going back home." His son looked at him and he said, "You're leaving now when the matter is about to begin and the parties have come to face off one another? By God, we won't leave until all of this is finished." His son was filled with fury, egged on by the campaign of fighting this war against Ali ibn Abi Talib to take this vengeance for the blood of Uthman. Zubayr would reply to his son, looking at him in his youthfulness, saying, "Do not mistake this for cowardliness on my part. I never fret from war, whether it was before Islam or after it." Then his son asked him, "Oh, father, then what is making you retreat? What is making you leave the battlefield and fight this war against Ali?" Zubayr looked at his son and he said, "If you knew, it would break you." And he left it at that, and he left. Abdullah ibn Zubayr took his father's role in leadership of the troops, while Zubayr returned to Medina. But Zubayr never made it home. He was actually killed on his journey back to Medina. Muhammad ibn Talha, the son of Talha, and Abdullah ibn Zubayr led Aisha's troops into battle. The fighting continued to be intense, and the clashing of the swords continued for hours on. At one point, it seemed as if Imam Ali's troops were losing advantage in battle, and his forces continued to fight fiercely against the forces of Muhammad ibn Talha and Abdullah ibn Zubayr. Now at this point, where was Ali? Where was Amir al-Mu'mineen? Where was the Lion of God? Where was Asadullah al-Ghalib, Ali ibn Abi Talib? Narrations tell us that at this point in battle, he stood behind the troops looking at the scores of men that had already fallen. Imam Ali alayhi salam lifted his hands to the heavens and he proclaimed, praying to Allah, saying, "My God, you know that I have not wronged Uthman with even a black mark on a white slate. But Zubayr and Talha have gathered the people against me." After this prayer, Imam Ali alayhi salam plunged into the heart of battle. He plunged into the battlefield. The lion came out of its den and no one could stand in its path. The battle ensued and Ali's men finally gained the upper hand. At this point, Aisha was sitting on her camel in the midst of the battle, alone with no one by her side. Abdullah bin Zubayr was drenched in the blood of his wounds and Muhammad ibn Talha was drowning in the heat of battle. Ali's warriors surrounded Aisha as she sat on her camel. The clangs of the swords continued to sing, but then they finally came to a quiet as the battle would be reaching its end. At this point, Aisha would gaze onto the battlefield and see so many of these soldiers fallen. Thousands of Muslims were killed. Aisha gazed upon the thousands that had fallen. And one of Imam Ali's warriors would approach Aisha. He would grab the reins of her camel to escort her off the battlefield as the battle had come to a final end. Distraught, seeing all of these men had fallen, and then seeing a strange man come and grab the reins of her camel, she raised her voice and protested in scorn of Ali ibn Abi Talib. She said, "What kind of man orders the widow of God's prophet to be escorted by strange men off of the battlefield?" The warrior that was escorting her removed his helmet and unveiled himself. He said, "It is I, your brother Muhammad," he told his elder sister. Dumbfounded, Aisha, the mother of the believers, was taken off of the battlefield and escorted back to her home without scorn or harassment. Her camel was reined in and the battle was over. The battle would be named the camel, Jamal, after the camel of Aisha. With her camel came the battle, and with it, the battle ended. And as she left, the corpses of thousands of fathers, husbands, and sons of the nation of Muhammad remained lifeless on the sands of Basra. Now, this wasn't the end. Though the forces of Ali ibn Abi Talib, Amir al-Mu'mineen, were victorious in this battle, and Aisha and Talha and Zubayr were defeated, there would be another group that was waiting. It's quoted in history that Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan, the leader of the Umayyads at that time, would say to the people, "I have not come to fight you so that you may pray and fast and perform the pilgrimage. I fight you only to rule over you." This is a quote attributed to Muawiyah in addressing the Muslims of the time. And he had said this in different situations, both during the time of Amir al-Mu'mineen and also during the time of Al-Hasan wal Husein. Vengeance for Uthman's blood became the battle cry for anyone who wished to challenge Ali's caliphate. Just like Aisha and Talha and Zubayr marched onto battle against Ali, Muawiyah would come forth and do just the same. Now, with this battle, the bodies of truth and falsehood couldn't be more distinct. On one side, there was Ali ibn Abi Talib, the brother and the extension of Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the one whom the Prophet said, "Ali is from me and I am from Ali. Whoever angers Ali has angered me, and whoever fights Ali has fought me, and whoever loves Ali has loved me, and whoever hates Ali hates me." And all of this, whoever loves me, hates me, fights me, befriends me, has done that to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Direct connection between Amir al-Mu'mineen, Rasulullah, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You have this one side, and then the other side being Muawiyah, the son of Abu Sufyan and the chief, the noble of the Umayyads. Abu Sufyan, from a historical standpoint, we see from the very beginning days of Islam, was the Prophet's greatest enemy. Muawiyah was raised in the house that cursed the Prophet's name and swore vengeance against anything that lived and breathed in Muhammad's praise. "By the name that I swear by, there is no heaven nor hell," were the very words of Abu Sufyan at the outset of Uthman's caliphate. Muawiyah's words were even more frightening. He would tell the Muslims, "O Muslims, I did not fight you so that you may pray, fast, and perform the pilgrimage. I have fought you only for dominion, only to rule over you." Muawiyah would carry on the legacy of his father, and he established the dynasty of the Umayyads, one that would last for nearly a century. A family that hated the Prophet and the religion so much, and unable to come and conquer him as enemies of the faith and conquer Islam as enemies of the faith from the outside, would then enter the religion and conquer from within to establish a dominion that would rule farther than the eye could see. That was the pursuit of Muawiyah, and living up to the legacy that his father Abu Sufyan wanted to see for his sons and his grandsons. Muawiyah would pick up where Aisha and her companions left off at the Battle of the Camel. And regardless of the outcome of that battle, Muawiyah was going for the caliphate, and he wasn't going to stop. His army would assemble and were ready for war even before the Battle of the Camel had actually been commenced. In the beginning months of Imam Ali's caliphate, Muawiyah was ready. He was planning that if Aisha and Talha were victorious, he would fight them. And if Ali was victorious, he would fight him. No one would be spared and no mercy would be shown. The son of Abu Sufyan, Muawiyah, embodied the characteristics of a man who could stand and challenge Ali. His cunningness, his devious intelligence, his apathy towards religion, and his abundance of resources empowered him to launch a compelling campaign against the caliphate of Amir al-Mu'mineen. He very easily, without hesitation, bribed and lured swaths of people to his side, in addition to capitalizing on the freshness of the recent battle which took so many lives from both sides of the conflict in the Battle of the Camel. The blood had not even dried on the sands of Basra yet, and Ali did not want another war. Still, Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, as he would proclaim, he would always be ready for battle. He tried to dissuade Muawiyah, however, from that battle, as he attempted with the companions in the previous one. Remember, Amir al-Mu'mineen, when he was being challenged by Aisha, Talha, and Zubayr, he would tell them and send different people and send different messages to tell them not to pursue in this battle, not to bring the blood of the Muslims upon them and upon their hands. He would do the same with Muawiyah and have the proof, the burden of proof placed upon him so that battle would not ensue. Ali found that the blood of his brethren was sacred. Imam Ali alayhi salam found it that the blood of the believers, the blood of the Muslims, was at such a high sanctity as taught by the Holy Prophet, that the sanctity of a Muslim is greater than the sanctity of the Kaaba itself. And as taught to us in the Holy Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that the life of one person, if the life of one person is taken, it is as if that all of humanity has been taken, has been killed. And if one life is saved, is as if that all of humanity has been saved. Now Imam Ali alayhi salam looked at this situation and found it to be that if battle were to happen, it would be the last final resort, and he would do whatever he could to stop that from happening. In his final appeal to Muawiyah, Imam Ali alayhi salam said the following in exchange of letters with Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan. He told him, "You have called for war, O Muawiyah. Put the people aside and come out and fight me. Let us excuse both armies from fighting. Let this show whose hearts and eyes are veiled. I am Abu Hassan. I am Abul Hassan, the killer of your grandfather, your uncle, and your brother on the day of Badr. The sword I used then is the same sword I hold with me now. With that same heart, I stand before my enemies, and I did not change my faith or my prophet. I am the same, and I am on the same path that you left in obedience, but entered with spite." Now, Imam Ali alayhi salam, he would send this word to Muawiyah. But Muawiyah would know that he would never face off with Ali ibn Abi Talib alone. He knew that he could stand no chance with Ali on the battlefield. He wouldn't risk his own life. But that didn't stop him from waging a war that would take the lives of thousands of other Muslims. The battle between the sons of Umayyah and the sons of Abdul Muttalib would finally take place at a place called Siffin. And Muawiyah rallied all of the men of Syria and marched on to the destination of the battle. Imam Ali alayhi salam would depart from Kufa with his army, and they finally met the Syrians, the people of Sham, the people of Muawiyah, on the plains of Siffin. Before settling into Siffin for what would be over 100 days of encampment, Imam Ali alayhi salam would speak to his army, and he laid out their expectations, his expectations of his army. Imam Ali alayhi salam told them, "Do not fight them unless they initiate fighting. Because by the grace of God, you are in the right, and to leave them till they begin fighting will be another point on your side against them." Look at Imam Ali alayhi salam outlining the rules of engagement and telling his soldiers what to expect and what he expects from them. If by the will of God the enemy is defeated, then do not kill the one who runs away. Do not strike a helpless person, and do not finish off the wounded. Do not attack their women, even if they may attack your honor with filthy words and abuse your officers. Be generous in your remembrance of God so that you may be victorious. Imam Ali alayhi salam outlined the etiquettes of combat, and he laid out the ethics of Islam in every engagement that he had, be it on the battlefield or in the mosque, in the markets, or any other place in the court of law. Imam Ali alayhi salam would make it clear to people, this is the path of Muhammad. This is the path of salvation. This is the way we reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and we seek out his pleasure. He distinguished himself as a leader with a purpose, who taught his soldiers that the meaning of life is not lost in war. Rather, if one engages in war, it is only to defend the purpose by which one lives, to breathe the air of justice and have in his heart this rhythm of truth. That is our purpose. And Ali ibn Abi Talib made sure that all of his people knew what he lived and what he would die for. Ali did not fabricate any of this or put up a facade to falsely inspire his troops and boost their morale, because you can't make this kind of stuff up. It has to be a part of you. It has to be something that you lived every moment of your life for. These were the words manifested by the intellect and the passion that was Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. Imam Ali alayhi salam was one who would invoke to his Lord in supplication. Before every battle, Imam Ali alayhi salam would say this supplication. Now listen closely to this, as Imam Ali alayhi salam would raise his hands to Allah and say, "Oh my Lord, hearts are drawn to you, necks stretch towards you, eyes are fixated on you, and steps are in motion towards you, and bodies have turned lean and weak. Oh my Lord, hidden animosity has become manifest, and the malice of these are boiling. Oh my Lord, we claim to you. Oh my Lord, we complain to you of the absence of our prophet. We complain to you of the numerousness of our enemy and the diffusion of our own passions. Our Lord, decide between us and the people with truth, and you are the best of deciders." Imam Ali alayhi salam, every moment of battle was him beseeching and supplicating to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and relying only on him. This was the same Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib that would be the one at Khaybar to pluck out with his two bare hands the gate of the fortress of Khaybar, something that dozens of men could not do collectively with tools. But Ali ibn Abi Talib, with his two bare hands, as history would note, would pluck out the gate of Khaybar like plucking out a flower out of a garden bed, and throw that gate of Khaybar and allow the Muslims to enter into the fortress of Khaybar and claim their victory. It was the same Ali that after that battle, as the Muslims were resting and celebrating their victory, Ali would take a piece of dry bread, and unable to break that bread with his two hands, he would take it and break it on his knee. The companions would look at Ali ibn Abi Talib astounded, dumbfounded, and ask him, "Ya Ali, you just plucked out the gate of Khaybar with your two bare hands, and yet now you can't even break a piece of dry bread?" He would turn to them and say, "Then was the strength of Allah. Here is the strength of a man. I plucked out the gate of Khaybar with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in his strength, and now I'm just breaking bread for me to eat." This was the belief, the conviction of Amir al-Mu'mineen, that when he looked at his destiny and his fate, he saw only the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and saved himself and continued to work in the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. With everything that he did, he turned to God. At this point in time in Siffin, 3 days of intense battle would ensue. And in those days, the angel of death reaped many souls. Rivers of blood would flow from the debauched limbs of the soldiers that had fallen. Darkness cast over the battlefield and gloomed over the men, both living and dead. The days were unforgiving and the nights were sorrowful. The Umayyad army had gained an upper hand at one point, and Imam Ali alayhi salam would speak to his men candidly. During the battle, he turned to his soldiers and he would say, I am faced with men who do not obey when I order and do not respond when I call. What are you waiting for to rise for the cause of God? Does not faith join you together, or a sense of shame arouse you? I stand among you shouting, and I am calling for your help, but you do not listen to my word and you do not obey my orders, till the circumstances show how bad their consequences are. No blood can be avenged through you, and no purpose can be achieved with you. I called you for help of your brethren, but made noises like the camel having pain in its stomach, and became loose like the camel of a thin back. Then a wavering, weak contingent came to me from amongst you. And he quotes the Quran as if they were being led to death and they were only watching. Imam Ali alayhi salam saw the morale of his soldiers faltering and saw the weakness in their ranks. So he would come out into the middle of the battlefield, and as the swords clanged and sung the melodies of a confused heroism, he saw Muawiyah in the distance watching the battle, gazing over the thousands of men fighting for his greed. The lion of God would roar, and he called out the fox. He called out to Muawiyah and said, for what reason do these men kill and be killed? Come out and fight me, O Muawiyah, and let the men be. Rule will be for the victor. Come out and fight me, O Muawiyah. The challenge was clear and quite reasonable. But then again, who is the challenge initiated by, and who is being challenged here? The challenger was Ali ibn Abi Talib, Amir al-Mu'mineen, the one who held Dhul Fiqar, the sword gifted to him by the Prophet from God's angels. The challenged would be Muawiyah, a politician and not a warrior. Muawiyah looked around at his company and he found their eyes glued to the valiant knight that challenged them. Their eyes were locked on the source of fear that entered into their hearts. Their feet stopped in their tracks and they could not move. Muawiyah snapped them back into reality, asking them of their opinion in this matter. Amr ibn al-As replied mockingly. He said, the man picked you. Go out and accept his challenge. Muawiyah replied smugly, you seem eager in the matter, Amr. Has Ali faced off with anyone and not killed him? Amr replied, are you too cowardly in the face of Ali ibn Abi Talib that you would try to flip my words onto me? I will go out there and I'll fight him myself. Amr grabbed his sword and his shield and he headed into the battlefield. And the men were in disbelief. Amr was also in disbelief. He knew he couldn't fight Ali, but he said he would, and he couldn't walk back now. His honor was at stake, and if he retreated, he would be the laughing stock of the army. Amr went before the grand door of Ali ibn Abi Talib, and he gazed at him for a while. He stood in awe. Amr was quickly reminded of his purpose of entering into the battlefield and made the first strike against Imam Ali alayhi salam in the battlefield. Within very few moments, Ali quickly overpowered him and struck the sword and shield out of Amr's hands. Amr faced imminent death as his eyes watched the sword of Ali, the sword Dhul Fiqar, raised above him. Now, he faced an imminent decision. To escape mortality, Amr did the unspeakable at that time and the times before. Amr would expose himself as Ali's sword was about to slice him in two. Amr, in his lewdness, interrupted the thunderous strike of Ali ibn Abi Talib as Imam Ali alayhi salam would turn away from the indecent exposure that Amr just gave. Amr escaped from Ali's hands and he ran back to the tents of Muawiyah in shame and disgrace. Imam Ali's army gained the upper hand, and nonetheless, it was as if the battle was decided. Fabricating a sense of calm and collection, Muawiyah turns back to Amr and he asks him, "So what do you think we should do, Amr? Have you not asserted that whatever bind you face, you have a way to escape from it?" He responded coldly, "War plays the odds. One day it's for us and one day it's upon us." Muawiyah continued to remain calm, knowing that Amr wished to prove himself to Muawiyah after the disgraceful act that he just made. In the end, Muawiyah had yet to give him his full share of Egypt's treasury, as well as its full authority in governance. Remember, Muawiyah was already working his new governors and his new administration in his challenging of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib. And he was getting his men ready to take over governates across the empire. "O Amr, the night of Ali's victory is upon us. So what do you make of all of this?" Amr responded and said, "Your men cannot beat his men, and you are not like him. He fights you for a purpose, and you fight him for something else. You want to live a long life, and he wants to die with honor. The people of Iraq fear you if you were to be victorious, but the people of Syria do not necessarily fear Ali. Give them a matter in which they will accept it if there shall be discord. And if they reject it, it shall be also discord. Call them to take the book of God as a judge between the both of you, an arbitration. That will resolve your matter. An arbitration." Muawiyah nodded his head, and as he was impressed with Amr's cunning recommendation and his analysis of the situation. And it would be the conspiracy of the arbitration that tomorrow would see. Brothers and sisters, we'll continue in the discussion and the analysis of the historical context in which Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam would be ruling at that time, and that his rule would be ended by the assassination attempt on his life of Abdul Rahman ibn Muljam, one of the Khawarij, who was a product of the Battle of Siffin. And we'll see, as with the arbitration that we're going to be discussing tomorrow, inshallah, this conspiracy that would leave many of effects and a huge impact upon the rule of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, the people reacting to it, and those that would continue to fight against him, utilizing the cunning and the wit of Muawiyah, not a wit that is one that is purposeful in the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but one that was able to bring about advantageous outcomes for him and his political establishment and his political rule for those of his time. We'll continue the discussion, inshallah, and gain a better understanding of the tragedy of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam through this historical context and analysis, inshallah. هذا والحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة والتسليم على نبينا محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين.